What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS. Today, taking a look at tomorrow afternoon's matchup between the Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One underrated storyline for this game, Alex, it's a homecoming game. Sterling Shepard coming back to MetLife Stadium. Sterling Shepard, I was reading about his stats, comparing them from last year to this year earlier this morning, Alex. He played like 15% of snaps for the Giants last season. He's up to 57% of snaps for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. Obviously, Chris Godwin's injury and Mike Evans' injury has a lot to do with that, but Sterling Shepard, the career resurgence, I'm very happy for him. I'm a huge Sterling Shepard fan. I always thought that he was an exemplary guy for the New York Giants, hell of a locker room teammate and hype man, and I'm happy to see him having success with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if we're taking a look at what our priorities are for this offseason, Alex, maybe you like the way I tie this topic in, we probably want to see Sterling Shepard have a good game tomorrow. Now, what do I mean by that? The Giants obviously sitting with the number 3 overall pick currently, according to Tankathon, in the 2025 NFL Draft. Every loss from here on out is a win. So the Giants, the more they lose, the closer they get to a top draft pick and to reaching their number 1 priority of replacing Daniel Jones after releasing him yesterday morning. Who could they replace him with? Well, of course, you guys have heard us mention these names. Cam Ward from Miami, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, and obviously there are other guys. We know that there are a lot of you guys who've been commenting in our comment sections how much you like Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, how much you like Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. There's a lot of quarterbacks to be intrigued by in this draft class. It might not be the same caliber of talent all the way around as it was in the 2024 NFL draft class, but hey, 2017 draft class was considered to be a bad one, and the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, was drafted in 2017. So you never know. If there's just one guy out there and you're the team that gets that one guy in a bad quarterback draft class, you could transform your franchise. So it's not really, there's going to be conversations throughout the offseason. Should the Giants punt on the opportunity to draft a quarterback? Should they just keep rebuilding the roster, maybe trade down? All of those conversations, every nook and cranny of the Giants offseason will be covered on this channel for sure. But our main priority going forward is going to be, let's focus on Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. They both play today. We're going to be locked into our TVs, excited to watch them, give you guys our report back on how they performed in a coming episode. And again, tomorrow afternoon, of course, we got you with the game recap for Giants versus Buccaneers, another pivotal matchup for the Giants draft positioning, especially after the Cleveland Browns won on Thursday night and helped the Giants move up the draft order. But Alex, before I turn it over to you and dive deeper into this topic, want to give a shout out to our partner, BetUS, the sportsbook with the fastest payouts in the industry. I'm going to take a look today at some of the lines, and there's one that I really do like. It's the Detroit Lions versus the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'm going to smash the over 28.5 points for the Detroit Lions, and here's my rationale. The Colts defense, they're okay. They've had their good moments, but overall, the Colts are a bad football team, and right now, I don't know if there is a team more hot than the Detroit Lions. They've been dropping 50 burgers in some weeks. 28.5, it's a very high bar to reach. You're pretty much asking the Lions to put up 30 points, but who is stopping the Lions from putting up 30 points right now? Not a whole lot of teams, so I like the Detroit Lions over 28.5 points. I'm going to go ahead, lock that in, throw a little $10 on there, and hopefully try to earn some cash at minus 115. I think that's a very good line. So guys, make sure you guys go check out BetUS. Use the code YouTube150. Get a 150% deposit match up to $2,000. And again, BetUS, the sportsbook with the fastest payouts in the industry. So go ahead and check them out. But Alex, let's turn it back to you. Let's go ahead and preview this game, talk about these quarterbacks. How are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling 24 hours removed from the Daniel Jones release?
Feeling pretty good, man. We finally get to turn our attention to the future instead of wondering what the Giants are going to do with this absolute mess. Previously it was like, oh, are they going to keep Daniel Jones? What are they doing with him? Are they going to cut him, bench him? Now we know the future. It's going to be a quarterback. Is it going to be Sanders? Is it going to be Ward? Is it going to be Milroe? It's really going to be one of those 3 guys, most likely. Anthony and I had a really good discussion. We'll probably do a whole episode on what we think about Milroe, what we think about Sanders, Cam Ward, and really just in a nutshell, we're going to do a lot of breakdowns for these guys, like really dive deep into, the statistics, what their film is showing us. And by no means are we quarterback experts, but we're going to do our best to kind of evaluate to see, what type of player these guys are. Are they going to fit in a Brian Dable-led offense? Are they going to fit in a New York-based media market, first and foremost? So we're going to try to do our best there and obviously put together a good sample size of action for you so we can make the best decision possible. Of course, we did pretty well in last year's draft class. I mean, could you really miss on Drake May and Jaden Daniels? Some people think yes. We both love them. Jaden Daniels was my guy. Obviously, Drake May was yours, and both of them looking excellent so far as rookies. So, give yourself a pat on the shoulder. We're going to see, how Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy, even Bo Nix is looking pretty damn good, which definitely surprised me. I wasn't that high on him, but Denver's unlocked something there. Their offensive line has been one of the best, if not the best in football this season. Bo Nix has time in the pocket, making things happen. Pretty crazy.
Shout out to Quinn Miners.
Shout out to
friend
Quinn
of the
Miners.
podcast, former Fireside Giants interview alum, one of the best interior offensive linemen in the NFL, helping lead that Denver Broncos offensive line. Just had to throw that out there because you mentioned their O-line.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, a lot of players that we've interviewed have turned out to be really good in the NFL.
Lee McNeil.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Ridiculous. Like, so many guys we've talked to and talked about have become great. So definitely excited to see how the draft process goes through here and what kind of guys, pique our experience or pique our interest rather. So, looking at this Week 12 game for the Giants, obviously the Buccaneers getting Mike Evans back, they're going to use him. Mike Evans, if you're a better bet Mike Evans anytime touchdown, because Deonte Banks is unfortunately giving up a lot of touchdowns this season. And the Giants have waved the white flag here. Like, the season's over. The players know it. They're saying farewell to their quarterback on Instagram, for God's sakes. Like, they know this season is cooked. Now, they try to rally around Tommy DeVito. They say they're going to rally around him. But, let's be quite honest with you. It's not going to be this effort the rest of the way. You're not going to see, a winning effort the rest of the way, most likely. If they lose this game, I think it's just going to further demoralize them. This is meant to, try to provide a little bit of a spark. And, I think Tommy DeVito, the Buccaneers are a good team. They have a really good pass rush. We still don't have, our offensive line is still weakened with Andrew Thomas out. So, what do I think about this game? Giants probably lose this game. They're 5.5 point underdogs. And, I think, Baker Mayfield's a really, really good quarterback. I know they're on a little bit of a losing stretch right now, but now they get a key receiver back. The running game's been strong with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. So, I do think that if you are the Giants in this one, I mean, they're not going to create many turnovers. Baker Mayfield doesn't turn the ball over that much. He's a little erratic sometimes, but he's been really efficient this season. So I do think, if you are Big Blue, you got to score points. You have to score points. You have to give your defense a reason to fight. If the Giants' offense is not producing, the defense is going to give up in the second half. That has been the story the entire season. If the Giants are not putting points on the board, the defense is going to say, why am I trying? And they're going to give up. That's just what's going to happen. It's been happening. So Tom DeVito, if he wants to be, even considered a backup next year, even in the realm of possibility of being a cheap backup, he's got to go out there and show efficiency, use his footwork, use his off-script capabilities, make the throws, be efficient, be decisive. He does those things better than Daniel Jones, but there are limitations to his game, so we'll see what happens here. But this is going to be one of those games that, if you're a Giants fan, you're hoping to God you lose, but you want to see your guys fight. You want to see some guys, and the rookies, especially the youngsters, step up and really start to produce, even despite the adversity going on.
Yeah, speaking of the rookies, wanting to see them fight and produce, Malik Neighbors might not even play tomorrow afternoon. He's dealing with a groin injury now. I think that's important if we are doing a game preview to bring up the fact that our best playmaker in the rookie first-round pick, Malik Neighbors, dealing with another injury, could miss another game. Obviously, he missed 2 games earlier this season with a concussion, but now he's dealing with a groin injury, and he is questionable for tomorrow afternoon. I'm sure later on today we'll get an update, and check out Fireside Giants social media because we'll post that update. But right now, it's looking like his status for game day is up in the air. Alex, one of the things that you did highlight, though, that I also want to touch on, Deonte Banks, I mean, Mike Evans is probably looking at him like barbecue chicken, right? This is one of those matchups for Mike Evans where he's got to do some catching up. He missed a bunch of weeks. He's only got 600 something receiving yards on the season, and he wants to go for that 11th consecutive year over 1,000 yards. So what does he need to do? Well, he needs to average close to 100 receiving yards per game to close out the year. And I think Mike Evans can do it, and I think he's going to try his damnedest to get it done. That is a streak that means a lot to him, and this is one of those weeks where he's probably looking at it like, hey, if I want to keep that streak going and go for 1,000 yards once again this season, this is a matchup that I need to take advantage of and put up a bunch of yards. And then if you are on the flip side of that, if you're Deonte Banks, you know that you're going up against a future Hall of Fame wide receiver this weekend. If you could turn in a good performance and show that you don't have effort issues and you do have potential, that's one of those things that'll make the Giants feel a lot more comfortable continuing to roll you out there as a starter in 2025. Essentially, the final 7 weeks of the season, Alex, it's an audition for the New York Giants players currently on the roster for next year. That's how they need to look at it. Every single player on this roster, I think, needs to play like their job is on the line, like they are not guaranteed to be back in 2025. There are only a handful of players who are guaranteed to be back in 2025 and back in the capacity that they're in. I would say Dexter Lawrence is a guarantee. I mean, you could say that Bobby Okereke is a guarantee, but outside of all of those other guys, even the rookies, as great as they are, not guaranteed to be back in the capacity that they're in. And what I mean by that is, if you're, say Tyrone Tracy, or if you're Malik Neighbors or Tyler Nubin, all of those guys are excellent, but they all do play at positions that the Giants don't necessarily need to stop themselves from upgrading. Those players are great, like Tyler Nubin, phenomenal, but in free agency, the Giants could absolutely add more talent to that safety room, unless Tyler Nubin snaps across the final 7 games of the season and proves, I'm enough talent, you don't need to revamp this room, just lean on me, right? So that's kind of what I mean by that, and that's the example that I'll give. And I think the same thing for Malik Neighbors. Maybe the Giants go into the offseason and say, hey, you know what? We need another alpha dog receiver. We need 2 guys in this room. Let's build that Jamar Chase plus T. Higgins, right? Maybe we even go sign T. Higgins, But if Malik Neighbors can go for an average of 120 receiving yards for the rest of the season, I think you feel fine just going on the cheaper end and making sure that Malik Neighbors stays your number one absolute true alpha dog. So again, not that there's anything really at risk for those young guys, but everybody should be playing for something right now on an individual level as well, and auditioning for this front office and telling them, here's what I provide right now, and now you know what I'm going to provide in the future, so build around me. And then there's guys who are obviously playing for their jobs, like Deonte Banks and some others across this team. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these Giants players fight through these 7 weeks. But Alex, it's also going to be interesting to see how some of these collegiate quarterbacks fight as well. At the same time that the Giants are fighting, the players are fighting for jobs, and the Giants are, I guess, fighting for wins, but seemingly also fighting for losses at the same time. We're going to see some of these college football players fighting for wins and fighting to improve their draft stock, like Cam Ward, who I can't wait to see, Alex, in the college football playoffs. Now, doesn't seem like we're going to see Shedeur Sanders in the CFP. It's possible, but it's very unlikely. But we will see Cam Ward, and I can't wait for that. And I'm really just excited to see throughout these final few weeks and into the bowl games, the Shrine Bowl as well, where Shedeur Sanders is going to be. The Shrine Bowl being where Mike Kafka was a head coach last year for the Giants, representing the Giants. We have a lot of evaluating to do, and we have a lot of opportunities to evaluate these talents. But what are your thoughts, Alex, as we get into this weekend with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders once again putting in another game under their belt and getting more experience? What is it that you're looking for from those 2 guys? And what I mean by that is, if you've got a question mark that you need answered by the end of the season, what is that question mark that you have for Cam Ward, and what's that question mark that you have for Shedeur Sanders?
I mean, right now it's competition. You know what I mean? It's we need to see them go up against better competition. The playoffs are going to be essential, pivotal moments for their draft evaluations, in terms of pure, like, just what their situations are. And as players, I mean, we're going to look deeper into them, but just from a outside view, I'd say Sanders, my biggest concern is that he's not a great athlete. He's capable of escaping the pocket, doing all those things. Has great arm talent. Like, he's a really good processor, really good quarterback. But his lack of athleticism and his ability to escape the pocket now, he's just barely getting away from some of these guys. At the NFL level, more speed, more physicality, he may not be as effective. Cam Ward, I think sometimes he plays too much hero ball. Like, we've seen too much of that Caleb Williams style where he, like, tries to, he's unbelievable when it comes to escaping the pocket. So probably the best pocket presence in this draft class, because he could stand in the pocket and deliver the throws, but he can also escape. He feels the pressure. It's like he has eyes in the back of his head. But sometimes he bails and he tries to be too creative. He tries to do too much. His eyes, like, you want a quarterback who's going to bail and then keep their eyes downfield. He does that to perfection. But sometimes he goes across his body. Sometimes he makes really dumb turnover-worthy plays, and those are the things you just have to eliminate. Sometimes he's the hero because he does it, and sometimes he's the villain. So I think that if you create that balance, he can kind of eliminate that arc of, like, he gets too creative, too risky. You're going to see a really productive player, even more so, emerge from the ashes here. So I think both of them have limitations in ways, but they're both really, really, really fun prospects to watch. I can't wait to do more, go in depth to see here, because Ward's offensive line's better than Shedeur's, and Shedeur has like unbelievable amount of completions. And then obviously Jalen Murrow, we'll do a whole thing on him as well. What we think about him, what we like about him, what we don't like. But I mean, right now, I just want to see better competition against those two teams. I know Utah had a really great defense against Colorado last week, and Sanders tore them to shreds. So that was awesome. I mean, it's also fair to mention he has unbelievable playmakers, and Travis Hunter and some of the other receivers on that team. So he has sick talent. Cam Ward, sick Xavier Restrepo, like that's it. So, I do think that Hunter has a lot of pieces around him that do help him elevate his game. But he would also be going to a Giants team that has Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy and some really good talent there. So, he's not like he's walking into a system that has nobody there to utilize. He has one of the best college receivers in history going into his second season in the NFL. So, I'm not really too worried about him not having enough talent to work with. I think there would be a seamless transition for the Giants, but I do think both those players are super exciting.
Yeah, the one thing that I want to see from both of them this weekend and every weekend forthcoming, I want to see you be aggressive throwing the ball downfield, but also maintain a high completion rate. And like you said, competition, that's going to be the biggest question mark, and poise in the pocket is probably the biggest question mark for both of them, because ultimately, you think back on the last 6 years with Daniel Jones, his first season, poise in the pocket was his biggest problem, and I would say even in his sixth season, it was his biggest problem. So do we have quarterback prospects in this year's draft class who have that poise and ability to navigate a tricky pocket situation and find open receivers downfield? That's going to be a trait that I keep a close eye on for all of these quarterback prospects. And again, like Alex said, we have a lot of discussions to be had about all of these quarterbacks, and we have a lot of film to break down on the channel. It's really going to be so much fun breaking down these guys and all these top prospects and doing all these mock drafts and projecting what this offseason is going to look like for the New York Giants. So can't wait for all of it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can wait for tomorrow's game. I'm not really looking forward to it. It's probably going to be ugly for the Giants, but screw it. We'll watch it anyway, and we'll react to it, of course, on the channel. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS, a sports book with the fastest payouts in the industry. But that'll pretty much do it. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.